Swayam Prabha. Digital India. Educated India.
Hello everyone, welcome to the course An Introduction to Disability Studies. In lecture number 8, we are going to speak about disability and technology. So, before I come to this lecture, disability and technology, let us go back and just refresh our memory what we were talking and speaking about in last lecture. So, in the last lecture, we were discussing that how the experiences of people with disabilities are very diverse, but unfortunately what happens, they are forced to think, people are forced to think as if they have just one experience. So, I was also speaking about that how a person who is a paraplegic, the person who is visually impaired, the person who is hearing impaired, they all fall under the disability category, but the problem is that they all are different, which is not taken into the consideration, right. The second point I was making, that most of the time what happens, because of the cognitive impairments, most of our students, children, fellow friends are not able to participate in the society because of the coercive norms which are forced on them to comply with it. And most of the time what happens, they do not comply, and if they do not comply, you know well what happens, right. They are excluded, they are not included, they are forced to stay outside, there is a violence perpetrated on them. And one important point that I also made is that we all think that there is something wrong with the body. If suppose something happens, suppose somebody is not ready to comply, is not able to comply with the society's normative structure or rules. So, we think that there is something wrong with the body. The problem is that we need to shift that attention. In disability studies, our job is to shift that attention. The attention is that it is because normative structure is so rigid, it is because it is not flexible, it is because it is not ready to allow to give the space to other body marked with differences. It tries to hegemonize and homogenize everybody. It asks everybody, it demands from everybody to come and to comply with the given norms. That is a problem, that is a consideration, right. So, we also touched that point. Another point that we touched, that there are certain visible disabilities, there are certain invisible disabilities, and they both are very different from each other. Let us say for example, we also touched that homosexuality is also a form of a disability in a society where heterosexuality is a norm, right, and they also feel as if they do not belong to the society. So, how are we going to take into account their experiences? And the most important point that we all were making out of this lecture is the representation never ever take initiative to take lived experiences of people with disability into account to talk about disabled people. It assumes, right, it just manufactures certain understanding of disabled people and speak about it. It never understand that what you are speaking without talking, without experiencing that discrimination may not be true about that, about people with disabilities, but the problem is people think as if it is true, and the problem is, which is extremely significant and considerable, is that we expect from people with disability to comply with that, because if they fail, we think that there is something problematic with the body. We never think that it was an assumption that we have developed due to representation about people with disability, but the meaning of that identity, meaning of that disabled with identity is very unique and very different. So, these are the gaps, these are the fissures which exist in academic discourse. Our job is to fill that gap. Our job is to promote inclusivity, and that can only be done, that is only possible when we create a society where every marginal identities also have their own space without any imposition on them, when majority take a step ahead to understand the problem of minorities and talk about it. So, this is how we can extend the argument of disability studies further. In today's lecture, we are going to talk about disability and technology. Now, the question is here, why are we going to talk about technology as part of disability studies discussion? Why is it so that we are going to think about technology and disability? How come they come together? Technology is a part of science or technologies. It must be what the discourse of technology is doing in humanities and social sciences, right? It comes as a question in our mind. Or the second comes, even if suppose you are talking about technology, what this is doing in disability discourse, how the discourse of technology is important in the discipline called disability studies. Let me make you understand with a simple analogy first, or before I bring that analogy, think for a second. What is the technologies? Were there a time when people were living without a technology? My simple answer would be no. Technology existed, it exists, it will keep existing, because the very limited understanding of technology will not only reduce the humanities discourse, but even reduce the very discourse of technology as well. So, what is technology? Technology in a simple way, that to do something, to act something, to perform something, you take a help of something. So, let us say for example, technology is not only is used in factories or in manufacturation, right? Like not only when you are going to manufacture something, then you need a technology. Technology is something that you need in your room. Let us say for example, when you turn the heater on, when you turn the fan, when you use a cup to heat it, heat the milk, this all is part of technology. So, since ages, even if I go to the ancient, there were certain parts which were helpful, like let us say for example, when they were killing the animals, the ancient people, when they were killing animals to appease their hunger, they were also taking the help of technologies, right. So, technology cannot be only understood that when you see a big machines, it is also small thing that help and ease your work. That is a simple understanding. Let us close this discussion further. Close this discussion now, move further. Now, what is the relevance of the discourse of technology in the discourse of disability, right? There is a one way people suddenly see, oh yeah, we need technology because it enables people with disability to work properly, right. It enables people with disabilities to access the buildings. Let us say for example, if they have a wheelchairs, which is a part of technology, if they use it, they can access the building so quickly, easily, comfortably. So, it enables at the same time transforms their identity. So, without technology they were feeling disabled, but now because of technology they are feeling able. So, now you look at the nuances, how the discourse is transforming, right. So, technology assists, technology becomes an assistive device which is very much attached to the body of a people with disabilities, right. So, second part is extending the discourse further. Technology becomes very much part of people with disabilities. In fact, it becomes a limb. It becomes a kind of a limb for people with disabilities. So, let us say for example, what do you do with your hands, right? You use your hands to eat, right, to do your work, to dress yourself up. So, you are using your hand as a machine to enable or to make your work efficiently. So, in the same way, when you are using a machine, it also enables in doing your everyday life's task. Now, I am making it very simple so that you can understand the complex discourses, right. Now, you see that the difference between hands and a machine is not much. Now, the question comes, which is natural, which is not natural, because the entire discourse of disability relies upon the questioning the discourse of natural and culture, all normal and abnormal. Because the problem is, when something that is normal is constituted as a natural, right. Because what is ingrained in our everyday discourses, what is ingrained in our everyday cultural part, it is considered as if it has become so natural, right. And when you defy that, when you do not comply with that, when you question that, so you are treated as if you are questioning something called natural. So, natural cannot be questioned, but we forget that maximum thing which we encounter is cultural, not natural. Let us not get into discourse, but the point I am talking about that how you are going to differentiate a limb which you use to work and a technology or device that is part of technology has become a part of your body. So, here you see the difference. The third idea is technology is often given to us, to people with disabilities, so that they can feel more capable, they can more experience as the able body feels. And here the problem is the question that disability scholars do, that it is not that they are rejecting technology, but they are saying that technology should not, the idea of technology has become a part of normative discourse, where technology is strengthening the normative discourse further. Obviously, now you see there has been AI, artificial intelligence. The technology has gone to much advanced. In fact, if you read the post-humanism, the post-human discourse, you will realize that even the brain can be changed, it can experience new things, like it can experience, it can enable you in such a way that a human is not capable of, right. So, it has gone to the extent that now it is extremely difficult to differentiate between body and technology. I mean, where you going to say that this is where the body starts, technology ends, or technology starts, body ends. It is a very blurred line, not even thin line that you can separate, it is a blurred line. You, in today's world, you cannot reach to that, right. So, you can go to Gary Wolf and other thinkers who are talking about the post-humanism, but the point I am talking about that because of the technology enhancement, the way it is happening in our everyday life, humans are not, they have become post-human, right. I am not saying non-human, there is other way to say to post-human, but what I mean is the extension of what human was. In fact, the very discourse of human has extended itself. It is not the way we used to think about being human in 200 years before, or let us say for example, when in 17th century during the age of enlightenment, people were talking about cognitive thinking, capacity, capability. Right now, even if you are not in a particular society, you can, sitting at a home, you can experience the virtual reality I am talking about, right. So, how do you understand this blur? How do you understand this extension of the human and mediating with technologies, right. So, when you say you are surrounded with technology so much, when the post-humanism discourse have taken its place, disability cannot stay outside of this kind of discourse, because it affects people with disabilities as well. It affects any marginal identities, because it keeps on examining that what is happening in the new societies, what is happening in new normal society, is whether it is forcing marginal identities to go back, or it is creating a new norms where people have to comply, otherwise they will be thrown out, and obviously their marginalization will be justified through the discourse of science and technologies. So, these are a difficult and different discursive phenomena which we need to pay attention to understand that how disability and technology are related, how artificial intelligence, or let's say surgeries, or let's say, which I will be talking about, Donna Haraway's concept called cyborg, relates with the discourse of disability, right. So, these are the important understanding of disability and technology that we are going to keep in the mind when we are entering into any new discourse which has to do with technology or disability. In fact, there are many people who are doing research in thinking that how technology and disability are mediating. In fact, one of my research scholars is looking at the post-humanism, where she is talking about the post-human capabilities in relation to how it challenges the disability intervention or disability discourse. All right. So, for now I am not going to enter into the research and all, but the point is that I am going to outline, jolt the discourse of disability and the discourse of technologies. So, with this extensive introduction, let us move to the slide number 1 and think line by line, point by point what I am going to say. So, these introductions are important extensively so that you can relate what the slide is speaking, what the point is being made in each slides. Okay? So, look at the first slide please. Let me begin this lecture, what I mean the slides, with certain observations, right. First, there are inquiries into the processes through which individual acquire disabilities and how various technologies and material structure facilitate or hinder interaction in this context. Right. So, the first inquiry that I am making is that how individual acquire disabilities, that is the first, right, and how various technologies and material structure facilitate or hinder, right, because every time we think that technology only enables, but sorry to say or use that word, technology also disables the individuals. But always we think that technology is so helpful, so good, nice to the human being, to the societies, it includes it promotes inclusion, but we tend to forget that at the same time technology also disables, right, or the process through which individual acquire disabilities. Let me make it more clear to you in a simple sense. How do you inquire, like what I mean by inquiring how individual acquire disabilities? Now, what is happening, in fact, there are many debates are emerging in sports that people are taking medicine so that they can run fast, they can perform better, and now, I mean this is an interesting study that one should do, but now there is a question, legal parameters that it does not allow. Now, you see that there are medicine available which can accelerate your performances in sports. You are not, and then they say you are not human anymore because you have taken a medicine that is not human capability. But it is a very intricacies are interwoven which we do not unfold. So, imagine there is a person who is living in a different culture and is going to perform in different culture, and he has been given a different set of parameters, and now everyone has to perform that. Don't you think there is a discriminations, because everyone is different, everyone is born and brought up in a different culture, everyone has a different capabilities and experiences, but sports is also very masculine, right. Let us not get into this discourse, because it will take another 1 hour to talk about that. But the point what I am making is this, that technology enables, at the same time disables, and also it is a process through which one experience disability, right. So, now you will say no, that is not true, because just now you said that wheelchairs are being used so that you can access the building. So, now you can feel abled. So, how you can say technology also disables individuals, right. So, the point I am telling you with an example. Let us say, for example, there are many people in the society who cannot access the given technology. And when someone is using technology, so what will happen? This will reach to the another ability discourse, the people will be more efficient, and then those who are not able to meet that standard, they are going to also take that help of technology, so that they can reach to the standard. Otherwise, they will feel disabled. Let us say, for example, let me give you more easy example, so that you can easily relate and understand. Suppose there is a classroom of 15 students, there are 14 students who are using a computer, right, and there is another student, 15th one, who cannot use the computer, who cannot access the computer, who is not capable of using the computer, or who does not have a computer. Don't you think the very experience of the 15th student who is incapable of using or accessing the computer will feel disabled? Where does it come from? Is a technological problem, is a body problem, or is a societal problem? But you are going to say its problem lies with you, because other 14 students can access and know how to run the computer, but you do not know. So, therefore, problem lies with you, because what majority does, you expect everyone can do, every other person who is not able to do that, but maximum people are doing that, they should do that. This is what called perpetuating violence on the minority. This is what I am saying, that exercising, enforcing normative rules on minority or people with disabilities. That is where I am contesting and arguing with, right. Another argument that I was making is that how various technologies and material structure, they facilitate and hinder interaction in this context, right. Let us say, for example, it is not I am here going to criticize only the technology, I am appreciating that there is an intervention of technology, but our job is to make a technology in such a way that it is more inclusive, not exclusive, right. Inclusion is important, not the exclusion. So, let us say, for example, there are new Androids pictures, so far machines are coming, and if you are not able to chat with someone, there is a problem because of certain things. How do you do that? Let us say, for example, the one who do not have hands, how is he going to access the touch screen, where it is required that you need to use your finger to open the computer, open the mobile phone and write a message or do something. Don't you think that he will now feel more disabled, because he will realize that other people are able to do that and he is not able to do that because he does not have hands? So, don't we think that the kind of apparatuses or technology we are producing, it is keeping in mind only certain set of people who can access that and ignoring certain set of people because of the profit and so on and so forth. Obviously, capitalism market, I do not want to get into this, because again will take another hour. It will take another hour. Think for a second, right. As I always say, whenever we make a point, whenever I am making a point and you think something, hold on a video for a second, contemplate, meditate and then listen to me, because then only you can make the best use of this video. All right. Go to the second point now. Look at the slide, please. Second inquiry that I am making is, there are exploration into the construction of disability and ability, focusing on the shaping of disabled subject and bodies, as well as capacities and competencies that technology enables. Read this carefully. There are exploration into the construction of disability and ability, focusing on the shaping of disabled subject and bodies as well as the capacities and competence that technology enables. And this observation delve into the normative frameworks at play, the desired outcomes and the emerging configuration of subjectivity, embodiment and disability. The second inquiry is because, as I say, technology becomes very much part of us. And if you remember, when I was talking about identity, identity simply means that how do you identify yourself? How do you look at yourself? Let me give a simple example. You see, I use a spec, right? You see, this is a spec that I use, right? Trust me, every morning when I get up, the first thing that I look for is my spec. And if I don't find a spec, I feel as if I have lost something, right? And if you take away my spec even for 5 minutes, I can assure you that I won't be able to concentrate on anything. Even if you are speaking something, I have to use my ear to listen to you, but I won't be able to concentrate. I would feel that something is lost. Something that is very much part of my body is not with me. Think for a second that how technology has extended your very sense of a self. Let me give you an experiment, right? What I do when I go to the classroom, when I want to teach my students or research scholars, the first experiment I do, because I want to check their concentration level, I mean this is a different way, but just to explain the point that I am making, I ask them to that they can talk to their parents and tell them that they are safe, and they should give my number to them. In case they want to reach out to you, they can talk to me and ask about you, and I keep their mobile phones with myself for 48 hours. And I tell them, go live for 48 hours without your mobile phone. Now, think for a situation. I just check how disturbed, perturbed, agitated, annoyed that person is going to be in 48 hours. Is he able to live in the society which is surrounded with technology for 48 hours without his mobile phone or any gadgets, for example. It is not like I have taken the mobile phone and they are using the tablet or computer. No, I am just asking them to stay away from technology for 48 hours. You may say that this is a very coercive, you should not do that, but see, it is by kind of a pedagogy where I am going to check how concentrated they can become, and trust me, maximum students fail. They don't, like, they are not able to live their life without technologies, right, without a mobile phone. Now, you see, what is a mobile phone for them? Mobile phone is extension of their subjectivity. Mobile phone has become a part of their life and everyday life, and it has become their identity. It is identified. They identify themselves with certain technology. If they don't have it, it's gone with them, right? So, here you see, it's also technology helps in producing the discourse of ability, right. So, that is where disability studies enter, and it questions, it examines how it is going to be happen, right. Let us now make the third inquiry. Look at the slide, please. There are considerations regarding the limitations of technology's influence on the processes of becoming abled or disabled, including what they include, exclude or suppress. So, the use of technologies by disabled individuals is typically categorized as assistive technologies or technical aids, framing disabled people as reliant on these tools. So, it is commonly acknowledged that able-bodied individuals also rely on aids and may require them similarly, right. So, this is how you see that what technology is doing, it is disrupting the very discourse of who is able and who is disabled, because given the opportunity, if you allow disabled people to use the technology available in the market, there is a possibility that they may extend their capabilities, energy enhancement, than what able people have. They may quickly run on stairs. They reach to the building faster than able bodies, so called able bodies, which they are presuming that yes, I am an able body, right? I belong, I identify myself as able body. So, suppose if you are giving the technologies help to the disabled body, there would be a time when able body will feel as if it is disabled. So, here you see that given these opportunities, given that technology is provided to them, they may extend the discourse further level. The very binary of ability and disability will be debunked. The hierarchy will be reversed. The very discourse that surrounds with the discourse of ability and disability will it has to be redefined, refamed, rethought, reconsidered. All right. So, here is the more interesting ways to think about disability and technologies, that how it imagines the body, how it rethinks about the body, how it imagines what it is about. And that is why I say that even able bodies rely upon technological aids as disabled bodies do. But the problem is that we always look down disabled people, not the able people, because it is ingrained in us. It has been, our mind has been trained to look down a body marked with differences, right? And that is why I explained to you this chapter called steering and body, right? There is one entire chapter was on body and steering in the previous lectures, where I was talking about that why do we stare, who do we stare, what do we do when we stare at, right. So, these are the interesting way to come and examine these ideas. Let us move to the next slide, please. So, this presents a paradox and contradiction within normalization. So, while the norm is perceived as a self-contained and naturally self-sufficient actor, normalization actually operates through a theory of agency that emphasizes the interconnectedness of individual within a framework. So, agency is not an inherent capability confined within individual bodies, it is always shaped by external factors. So, people are not autonomous actors, rather they are empowered to act within specific practices and relationship, becoming actors through the distribution and attribution of agencies. So, the distinction lies in the fact that standardized able body actors tend to operate seamlessly within their environments, where the distribution of agency, arrangements and even bodies often fade into the background. So, however, for disabled people, the diverse materiality and embodiment remain prominently visible. This visibility persists because it does not align with a standardized environment which typically facilitate uninterrupted agency flow. So, here 2 points I am importantly making is, the one is the discourse of normalization and another one is agency. What is a normalization? Normalization is the process through which certain things are made normal or look normal, right. What is the process? The process may be the performances, may be violence, may be asking you to conform with certain roles, and through this you looked as a normal, right. So, what is happening that what technology does, and that is what disability studies is worried about, because see my dear friends and students, differences cannot be ever in the future be eliminated. You cannot erase the differences from the society, But the problem with the normalization is you constantly think that you can erase the differences. On the name of eraser, you exclude a certain set of people, you marginalize, you subjugate people with disabilities or body marked with differences, and then you say, hey, look, I have created a better society. No, you have not created a better society, and that is why I give this very beautiful analogy. Like, imagine a garden. What do you do with the garden? How do you make a garden so called beautiful garden? You cut the weeds. You think that this is not required for the garden and you keep it outside. But again, in a point of time, you again get weeds, and then you again do the same. And then you think weeds are not the part of that garden, but actually weeds are very much part of that garden. But you are the one who constantly think that it is not part of the garden, and that is why you are throwing it out, but it is again coming out. So, the point is that in the name, on the name of normalization, there is always an effect of violence on the certain set of people. A technology is also used by so called able bodied people to normalize disabled people. But as we understand, the moment we do, it produces a different kind of challenges and contestation and engages with a different kind of issues, because it produces a kind of anxiety, and it also the way you handle technology is become different, right. That is one point that I am making. What is the second point that I am making? The second point I am making in this slide is called agency, the discourse of agency. You think that you are giving technology so that one can feel capable and exercise its agential being. What is agency? Agency is very much created by the interaction of the environment and the body. So, if environment is more intended for facilitating able body, then obviously disabled body will feel marginalized. But it is also that how these two come into picture, right. So, as I said, let us say for example, if you recall my previous lecture, I was giving that example that suppose you are living in a community where only sign language is a medium to communicate everyone, but you do not know the sign language. Imagine you have to live in that community where you do not know the sign language, and the only people who exist over there are who are capable of knowing the sign language and they do not know the verbal language. How would you feel? Think for a second. What would happen to your agency? Will you be able to perform properly and feel capable that, oh wow, I am able bodies? Will you be able to do certain practices and relationships? How will you make a relationship? How will you talk to someone? How do you make a friend? How do you spend a very good time? You will not be able to do that, because agency is dependent upon external factors. Your agency is attributed to you on the condition that external factors will remain feasible. The moment they are not feasible to you, your agency will be in the question. Let us say for example, a woman who becomes pregnant. The same woman who have been accessing that stairs every day, the day she gets pregnant, after that she will have a problem in accessing the same stairs if it does not have a lift. If it does not have a lift. Now, what about her agency? Her agency has been stripped off, it has been snatched, because external factors are not conducive. External factors are not any more conducive to a woman who is pregnant. So, these are the nuances that we need to understand. That agency, that is why look at the slide please again. So, agency is not an inherent capability confined within individual bodies. This is a very important point that I am making, right. Think for a second here, right. It's an inherent capability confined. No, it's not. It's a capital not. That is what I am explaining to you. That's not inherent capability confined within individual bodies, always shaped by external factors. They are not autonomous actor. Again, see, not. People are not autonomous actor. They are empowered to act within specific practices. It will define whether they are autonomous or not. All right. So, the distinction lies in that fact, right. I am sure that. So, this uninterrupted agency flow is only possible if external factors remains conducive. Let us go to the next slide now. Now, let us focus how technology is useful for people with disabilities. Technology has the potential to greatly enhance accessibility for people with disabilities. This includes features such as screen readers, magnificent tools, speech recognition software, alternative input devices which enable individuals with disabilities to access digital content and interact with technology. Right. So, this is what I was taking, that obviously I am not here standing speaking against technology, I am pretty much in the favor of technologies, right, because due to the technologies, like there are a lot of things have become so easy and accessible and possible for people with disabilities. Let us say for example, that there is a digital identity as well, where you only communicate, make friends through Facebook or social media channels, but you do not know them, you have never met them, you do not know, you do not talk about it, all that blah blah, right. You have not met them, but you are a very good friend, you share your experiences, you share your emotions, and in fact, you more relate it. So, it is helpful, right. Digital content is created. So, a person who is visually impaired, now he can read more, right. There is a interaction, through that interaction with technology, it has become recognition of software. So, this is where we agree. What else are useful? Look at the second point that I am making. There is a wide range of assistive technologies specifically to address the needs of people with disabilities. This can include mobility aids like wheelchairs, right. I was talking about walkers, communication devices. For those with speech impairment, sensory aids such as hearing aids, cochlear implants, right. These are the technologies which are meant to enable, right. They are meant to enable people with disabilities. So, technology empower individuals with disabilities by providing tools and resources that enable them to live more independently. For example, smart home devices can be programmed to assist with tasks such as turning on lights, adjusting thermostats, locking doors, enhancing autonomy for people with physical disabilities. The concept of inclusive design emphasizes creating products and environments that are usable by people of all abilities. By incorporating accessibility features from the outset, technology combines can ensure that their products are accessible to a wider range of users, thereby promoting inclusivity and diversity. So, technology plays a very crucial role not only in facilitating your everyday life, right. Let us say, as I just now told you, but it also promotes in facilitating inclusion through promoting, through making education and employment also accessible. So, initially I am sure that like when the technology was not advanced, it was not reaching to the people with disabilities, or when it was not created keeping in mind people with disabilities. So, obviously, it was more disabling, but now there are lot of job opportunities available for people with disabilities. There are through technology they feel capable of doing a lot of things which were not meant initially done by, like which was not easily can be managed by people with disabilities. So, now you see that there are pretty good situations they are in. Let us look at more benefits that they have. Look at the slide please. Technological innovation have led to significant advancement in medical treatments and rehabilitation for individuals with disabilities. So, this includes let us say prosthetic limbs, right. Obviously, due to the prosthetic limbs now they can walk easily. With advanced functionality, exoskeletons for mobility assistance, and brain computer interfaces for controlling devices through neural signals. So, technology also helps to bridge the gap in social interaction, what I have been talking about, that how social media are extremely helpful in video conferencing, right. Let us say for example, now we have a Zoom, Google Meet, a person is not supposed to be physically appear for every discussion through the Zoom conference or through the Google Meet or through there are many Cisco and all that, through which you can simply communicate, talk, discuss, share your opinion, and you feel as if you are very much part of that discussion, right. So, moving to the next slide please. Despite these benefits, now this is the benefit that we saw. Now, we are going to see the challenges and barriers to overcome in ensuring that technology is truly inclusive. So, that is our concerns. It's not like we are going to only look at the benefit, right. We are also going to look at the challenges and barriers that has to be overcome in ensuring that technology is truly inclusive. That is our concern, right. Our key point is this, right. So, we are not going to stop and say, oh yeah, things are now easy, things are fine, things are great, so let it be, let us not talk about further. No, we have to constantly doing that, okay, these are things are going to be helpful, but were there any side effects, were there anything else available, are they going to disable people, or it is making them exclusory again, right. So, these are the points. So, these include, look at the slide please, these include issue related to affordability, compatibility and awareness of accessibility features among developers and users. Additionally, digital accessibility laws and standards vary across different regions, leading to inconsistency in accessibility implementation, right. So, the problem is that most of the time what happens, what we encounter there, that implementation is not done properly, right. We tend to see more often that there is a technology available, but it is not being implemented. Let us say for example, I have been visiting many institutions, I have gone to many institutions, but I have noticed that there are many institutions where still people with disabilities are experiencing problems because technologies are not implemented successfully, and due to that they are experiencing problems, they are encountering challenges, and it is not only it does not stop here, it leads to their exclusion, it leads to that inclusivity is not being promoted. So, our job is not to sit and think comfortably ki wow, technology is doing great help, but the same time our job is to also look at that how it is challenging, how it is questioning, how it is disabling, whether the given technology is helpful or not. It is like cyborg, right. There is a prosthetic device given to you, but you see that there is also intention that if you want to live in the society, you should look like that, you should perform like an able body, you need prosthetic limbs so that you can be part of that group, you can be part of that society. So, here you see the prosthetic limbs is actually promoting the ability discourses, and that is what our concern is. So, when we are looking at technologies, our concern is to examine that whether they are promoting ableism, whether they are helping in some way the discourse of disability studies, or they are constantly strengthening the normative structure, whether it is asking you to comply and forcefully done with it. So, these are the interesting nuances, there are interesting facets, these are interesting lines where we are going to examine further. Okay. Look at the slide please. Emerging technologies such as artificial intelligence, wearable devices and virtual reality have the potential to further revolutionize the relationship between disability and technologies, right. So, see, when I am saying that they have potentiality like virtual reality and artificial intelligence to revolutionize the relationship between disability and technology. So, I am not only saying that the relationship is going to be very friendly, there is a possibility that the relationship may be very hostile or animosity. What I mean by animosity, that maybe the disability discourse challenges the kind of technology given to that. So, obviously, it is presented in the medias, it is presented in the representation through the representation that now through this now everything is going to be the good situation. Like let us say ChatGPT, what it does? Now people are not using the minds, they are not being creative, but they are becoming more dependent on ChatGPT, and they are more relying upon ChatGPT than their minds or than their critical and creative thinking. So, you see that when I am saying revolutionize, I am not only talking about the positive aspect, but I am also anxious what it has potential to do to us or to do the relationship between disability and technologies, and that is where our concern is going to be. So, look at the slide please again. By leveraging these technologies, innovative solution can be developed to address specific challenges faced by people with disability and enhance their quality of life. So, as technology continue to evolve, right. So, as I have been talking about it, as I was discussing this, that there was no era when there was not technology. Technology existed since the very beginning and it will keep existing. In the same way, right, in the same fashion, we are going to think that even today, tomorrow technology is going to come. It is going to take a shape, it is going to be more innovative, but our concern is this, that the kind of the form that technology is taking in society, whether it is going to promote inclusion or it is going to disable us. The second consideration that pinches me, that hints, that make me more anxious, that what if the discourse of ability is reproduced, all right? What if the ableism is making a more grip on the current societies? So, these are concerns that I have. Look at the slide please again. So, this includes issues related to privacy, data security and the potential for technology to perpetuate existing inequalities if not designed and implemented with careful consideration for accessibility and inclusion. See, this is what my concern is, right. So, look at the dashboard please, right. So, this is what you have to constantly imagine and think. So, that the given technology, whether it addresses the problem of accessibility and inclusivity or not, because if it fails to addresses the problem of accessibility and inclusivity, it has potential to do more damage to the discourse of disability than being helpful to people with disabilities or to the discourse of disability studies, right. So, our concern is constantly putting a check upon that the kind of technology coming into the picture, the kind of discourse emerging, whether they are helping or intended to have any ethical thinking or not. So, because so far what I have been examining and anxious, that one way, like obviously I put a very extensive discussion that how technology is helpful, how technology is going to be great impact on the lives of people with disabilities, like obviously they can go for education, they can go for job employment, they are participating in everyday discourses through Google Meet and Zoom, and obviously technology is helping them to read, write and work proficiently and efficiently. Now they are more visible in the public spaces. Public spaces is being accessible because of the technology available to them. Let's say also because of the wheelchairs available, they can access the stairs, but constantly we need to feel that we have to take their experiences into the account, which is extremely significant and important to talk about it, right. So when I am talking about technology, technology has two implications. So one, whether it once enables, second, it also disables. So when it enables, our job is to constantly think about that in what ways it enables, what form it can take to enable us, what are the other ways to see that whether it is producing inability for people with disabilities, or it has a potential also to do the danger, or it is also discriminating and excluding people with disabilities. What if the kind of technology coming into the picture lacks ethical complications? Because remember, my dear friends and students, when we are entering into people with disabilities discourse and also thinking about the kind of era we are living, that is capitalism. In the capitalism discourse, what usually happens, what generally we notice is that there is constantly ethical implications are being ignored. They are not being viewed properly, they are not being taken, only we are more money and profit oriented, and that is a potential threat or danger to see that whether the technology which is coming into the picture are helpful or not. So this is why what I am constantly focusing upon and talking in this lecture is this, that whether we are moving or we are leading towards ethical implications or not, right. Whether the technology that are helping us, what pros and cons in one word it has, right. So therefore our job is to look at both pros and cons. So therefore now what I am going to conclude this lecture by saying that technology, as we are looking in our societies, has potential to enable as also disable. Therefore we are not only going to see the goody pictures of it, but also see what it can do to us. As a research scholar, we need to constantly keep eye on this and engage with it. All right. So with this, I would like to end this lecture, my dear friends and students, and keep reading, keep engaging with the disability discourse. In the next lecture, I am going to take this discussion forward and talk more the nuances and important points. Thank you so much. Take care. Have a nice time. Bye-bye.